Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you 3 spring DIYs. I can't believe we are to this time of year already, but I think you'll love these. So let's go ahead and just dive right on in this morning. So for the first DIY, I am using this picture that I got in the clearance section at Hobby Lobby. I paid $2 for this picture, and they had multiple at my Hobby Lobby, so I would recommend going and checking yours out because it is a really nice picture. It has this weave background. It's super nice. So I just wanted to cover up all of this pink. I wanted to cover up the picture that's on it, and I'm using my Waverly chalk paint in the color white. It actually blends in perfectly with the white of this picture. So I will have to cover over the pink areas 3 times. The rest of the picture, I really only gave 1 coat because it pretty much matches perfectly and covers really well. I just really had to make sure I hid all of that pink. Then I have this wood truck that I picked up at Christmas time from the Dollar Tree. And they have them for every season, so you can even go get the Easter one or if you have one left over from fall and just take the back part off. So I'm just going to take this Christmas tree off of here. And I am going to paint the truck in my chalk paint in the color agave. I'm going to give the whole truck a good coverage. It really only takes about 1 coat, maybe some areas I touched up a little bit more, but it don't take much. Once I have the whole truck painted, then I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink and I'm going to color the tires. I'm going to color them really well. It really only took 1 cover, but I did put it on pretty thick, so I made sure it was nice and covered. Then I'm going to take my gray paint and I am going to cover a little circle, paint, not color, paint a little circle in the middle of the tire. Now that area, I'm not worried about having too great of coverage. I feel like it makes it look more realistic and more rustic if it's not perfect. And then right now you'll see that I am actually just taking my white paint and I'm just kind of brushing over lightly, dry brushing around certain areas of the truck to give it more dimension, to kind of make it look like either shadows or just wear and tear on the truck. I don't know, just trying to make it look a little bit more realistic instead of just all a solid color. Once I have the truck painted and it has had time to dry, I'm going to lay everything out on the picture the way that I want. I already printed off my wording on my Cricut, and then I have these Jenga blocks that I am going to use to put under the truck so that way it sticks out a little bit to give it a little bit more dimension. I am using my E6000 and hot glue. I really want this to hold up. I don't want it to fall off. So I want it to have that permanent coverage, but I need it to hold in place so I can finish it. So I'm using the hot glue so that way it'll have that real quick hold as well. And then I'm not actually gluing the truck onto the Jenga blocks yet. I want to be able to adjust it and move it as needed in order to get my wording on here. So I have Fresh Flower Market, again, that I already printed off and have on my transfer paper. And I'm going to put that on here. And then as soon as I have that on, I'm going to use the exact same transfer paper because I like to make the most for my money and use it more than once. I'm going to use that same transfer paper and put it on the blooms, stems, that's going to go underneath the truck. So I will put that in place there. Once I know that I have my wording in place, then I will go ahead and I am going to again use my E6000 to glue the truck onto the Jenga blocks. But I was a little bit concerned on if it would get in my way. I don't know once I got it done if it really would have, but I just didn't want to risk that. Now that I have the wording down, before I glue the truck on, I do want to make sure that I have it spaced perfectly for the front and the back of the truck. So that's why you see my measuring tape here. I just wanted to make sure. And that is the reason I'm using E6000 instead of hot glue, honestly, because at this point, I think it would have stayed just fine with hot glue. I don't think it would have fallen off. But I wanted to be, once the hot glue dries and it dries quickly, you don't really have time to move or wiggle anything around. On the E6000, it's a permanent hold, but it's not a quick hold. So I have time. If I would have maybe not placed it down perfectly, I would have had time to adjust it and move it around before it actually is set in stone. So that was the reason that I used that there. And then I'm just measuring it to make sure that I didn't put it down wrong and that I have it on perfectly. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I have some floral that I already have just left over from other projects. And I'm going to stick it in the back of the truck here. It don't take a lot of glue to hold it down, and you will notice that when you can't have your stems very long because they will hit the Jenga blocks that's holding the truck up. But I just grabbed some white and pink flowers that I already had for spring, and then some greenery that I already had in small pieces again, just left over. And I'm just filling in the back to make it as full as I can. I honestly cannot believe I am making spring DIYs already. I don't know, maybe because of how 2020 was, it just seems like we should still be in spring of 2020. It just has flown by to me. It's really weird. I was so pleased with how this turned out. I feel like it's something I would have purchased from Kirkland's. So you'll have to let me know in the comments below what you think about it. I am teaming up for this video with Heidi Sonboul DIY for her Friend Friday Hop. There is a whole group of us that are teaming up together, and there are some creative folks in this hop. So make sure you go down to the link I have in the description box below and hop on over to the next person to go through and make sure you see all the great DIYs everybody's bringing for you today. So for this next DIY, I am going to be using this sign that I have left over from fall and this bee picture that I actually got from the Dollar Tree calendar. So both of these are Dollar Tree items, and I am just going to trace around and cut out the calendar so that way it will fit perfectly over this mason jar picture. I am going to stick this on the back of the sign. I am going to actually use my glue stick instead of Mod Podge because these calendar pages, you will learn, are actually very thin. And it's so easy to tear with Mod Podge or get bubbles or ripples. I just find that when using something so thin like these calendar sheets, it just goes on better with the glue stick. And then press it down really well. Make sure there's no bubbles. I did really add a lot of glue, especially around the edges, so that way it don't come up. And then I found this scrapbook paper, which was rare from the Dollar Tree. I have never seen it. I have never seen it since either. I found it that one time. And I'm just going to use this to cover up what used to be the front of the sign, but is now going to be my back. I wanted it to have as finishing of a touch as possible. And then I'm going to use a new piece of my burlap ribbon to just make a new top to my mason jar. Now I am going to Mod Podge that in place because it is thicker and it takes a lot more to hold it. And you will see here that I actually not only had the Mod Podge underneath, but I did have to put a decent amount of Mod Podge on top. And I had to cover it pretty well in order to really make sure that it was sticking permanently and not going to go anywhere. Next, I'm going to use my X-Acto knife just to punch out the little holes where the original hanging string was, and I'm going to attach the original string right back onto it. Then I wanted some separation between where you see the calendar page and the burlap for the top of the mason jar. So I'm using this twine. I'm just hot gluing it to start it in the back. And then I'm just going to wrap it around the whole thing 3 or 4 times to make sure that it works well as the separation for my jar. And then cut it off on the back and then again super glue it down to the back. Then I'm going to take my smaller twine, both that I had picked up from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to make a bow out of it. I'm going to tie that down and then I'm going to glue it to the side here on the front of my honey mason jar. Once I have that in place, then I picked up last fall this little pack of sunflowers at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue one of them right in the middle of the bow. Just thought that would match perfectly with the yellow on the honeybee and then go well with the whole honeybee theme. You can probably, if you didn't get those or if you don't have those, you could probably still get those at Walmart. Or you could stick a different flower there, something to match your color scheme a little bit more. I'm going to sand down the edges a little bit. It didn't take a lot. I just want to make sure the paper that I cut is nice and smooth. And then I'm going to use my mineral paint here and just touch up the edges. It matches perfectly the color, the rustic color that is on this calendar page. So I'm really just blending it in with the color that's already naturally on the page to make it look like this is attached and not even a calendar page. I wouldn't even know that this came from a calendar. I would have thought I purchased this that way. I ended up loving how it all came together. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you are looking for creative inspiration ideas on how to decorate on a budget or just looking for a fun community of friends, then hit that subscribe button and click the drop down menu so you can be one of the first to get notified anytime I upload a new video. And for this next DIY, I'm going to use 2 of these signs I saved over from fall. And I'm going to glue it together down the center. And then I'm going to take these popsicle sticks and I am going to use my glue and glue them on the back, which was the old front of the sign. Then I'm using the wood filler to go down the center because I would like to not have a seam down the center of the sign. I want it to look like one big sign. I have 2 of these paint stir sticks that I actually picked up at Walmart. You get a pack of 3 of them for like $1. And I am cutting them down to the length of the width of the sign with those 2 pieces glued together. Now, if you don't have those left over from fall, probably most people don't go buying these signs in bulk. You can get these almost any season at the Dollar Tree. I know they have them for Valentine's Day. They have them for Easter. They're all the same size. They have them every season. So you should still be able to go out and grab you a couple of them. Once I have my wood filler sanded down, I am taking my Waverly chalk paint in the color white and I'm just covering the whole backside to my sign. This is now going to be the front of my sign. And I did have to give it 2 coats because I really wanted to make sure I could not see any of those lines in the center. Next, I'm doing something I haven't done before. I'm using multicolors to print something on my Cricut. I have this wording that I absolutely love for spring, and I wanted it to be really colorful, so I've never done this before, so it was interesting, and let me say it was a little difficult to do something quite this big because it was 18 inches in length and 12 inches wide. So It was the largest sign I've ever done. So I decided that to make it a little bit easier since it was so large, I am going to weed it, my vinyl, while leaving it on the mat. It just made it a lot more easier. I didn't have to worry about all the separate little pieces. And again, I put my transfer tape on it as well while it was still on the mat. And then after I had it on the transfer tape, then that is when I peeled it off the mat. I do get my transfer tape in larger quantities off of Amazon. It's a lot cheaper and it's a lot longer of a roll. And I mean, you can always reuse it a couple times, but I like knowing that I have bigger rolls and it costs less money. So um, I'm just going to get it ready. And again, it was a little bit more complicated. When I went to put it on the sign, I actually had to get my son to help hold the bottom so that way the transfer tape wasn't sticking before I had the top ready. So it was a little complicated, but we got it done and I was happy with how it turned out. It's a simple sign. I didn't add a lot to it, but I loved the colors. I wasn't sure the whole time I was cutting the color pattern out. I really wasn't sure how it was going to work. There was a few times where I thought, I don't know that this is going to look good. I may end up hating this, but now done and up and on my fireplace mantle, I actually really like it. So I really hope you do too. I hope you enjoyed all three ideas that I brought you today. Do not forget to go down to my description box below. Click on the link to the next video in this hop. I know you are going to love it. I know you're going to love some of the other DIYs that everyone is bringing you all today. So go enjoy them and let me know below which one was your favorite. And I can't wait to see you next time. Everyone have a great weekend. Have a great Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.